Welcome to Recovery Uncovered, brought to you by Whiskey and Milk. I'm Adam Clark.
I'm Sarah Sellers.
As recovering addicts, we're on a mission to fight the stigma against addiction.
And inspire those struggling by sharing the experience of real people in recovery.
Because addiction doesn't discriminate.
Behind every struggle, there's a person with a story.
This is Recovery Uncovered.
Attention, now arriving at your destination. The last house on the block.
Welcome back to Recovery Uncovered.
Hello. Thank you for joining us again.
All right. Well, this is episode 7 here. And so we've been doing this for like almost 2 months now.
I can't believe that.
That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going by quick.
Yeah, it has.
But today we're going to kind of do the reverse of what we did a couple episodes ago. We had originally planned to dive into both of our recovery journeys, and I just don't know how to quit running my mouth sometimes.
I had too many questions. I'm way too nosy to only spend 30 minutes on your recovery.
There's a lot, you know.
It is.
There's a lot up to it and a lot after it. But we're going to kind of do the opposite today and get to hear a little bit more of Sarah's recovery journey, kind of from the moments leading up to starting sobriety, what brought you to that point, and then what you've done to stay sober, what are some different pillars of your recovery that are non-negotiables for you, and kind of what that journey's looked like for you.
All right.
So I'll let you take it away.
I was thinking about this recently. I think that I'm almost half and half. Maybe I might have already passed that point, because if I put a substance in my body at 12 and then continuously did stuff until I was 17, then I'm sober from 17 to now 24.
Oh, yeah.
I've passed that point.
You've been sober longer than you were drunk or high.
That's so wild to me. Like, I still feel, I don't know. I'm still amazed by how much I got done when I was drinking.
Yeah.
How much wreckage and how many, relationships I ruined just in a very short amount of time. I was a very busy girl.
At a young age, too. At
a very young age, yes. Yes. It didn't feel that way, of course. I felt like the most grown little woman ever. But yeah, I just enjoy so many gifts today. It's unbelievable. We were talking about it last time on the last episode where we talked about your recovery. I feel the same way, and it's kind of gross. I kind of feel, just too mushy gushy about my recovery, and life is so fantastic, and this is a life I've never thought I could ever have. But it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It is so incredibly true. I think that I was going to be pretty lucky if I could make it just as a freshman at Ole Miss and get into the sorority I wanted to get into. I had a plan that I was going to sell drugs to get, more connections, because if I sold, I knew that all the people that sold had more drugs themselves and had more connections and knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. So I was like, I'm going to go network in college. And that was all I really wanted. And those are some really low goals.
Yeah, you weren't really shooting for the moon there.
No, not exactly.
Be the best drug dealer in Oxford.
No, and I was kind of settled that I was going to kill myself after. Like I was either going to kill myself, because I didn't really want to yet. I wasn't too strong on it yet, but I could see that would be a way I go out, and it was going to be suicide, or it was going to be a car accident, because I continued to drink and drive, but that freaked me out, because my dad told me at one point, and I'll never forget when he said this, because at this point I realized how done he was with me.
Yeah.
He said, I'm less concerned about you at this point. I'm more concerned about the family you're going to kill.
Ooh.
It was just his way of saying, I've done everything I can, and I know that. And I'm just worried about other people at this point.
That stings when it feels like your family's given up.
Like they're planning the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my dad got to that point. But I was going to just throw in the towel and go to adolescent rehab. And it was funny when I finally told my dad that I wanted to go, because he was saying, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure? Because I'd convinced him that getting help is really bad. That if I go, I will go learn how to do heroin and how to do, the things that you were doing, Adam.
Yeah, all that really good stuff. So you had convinced him before wanting to get sober.
Yes.
That rehab was a bad idea because you would learn from the best of the best.
Exactly.
Best of the best.
I was like, they're going to teach me how to do. And I was
manipulation
very
was strong
convincing.
there.
I was very convincing because I said, Dad, you think about the curriculum is 8 hours a day. That's when I'm with professionals. What about the other hours of the day? There's 16 other hours of the day that I could learn from people that I'm going to be right next to and roommates with.
Yeah.
That have done all this stuff and could teach me how to shoot up. They could teach me how to snort things that you don't usually snort, Dad. And so at that point, he was like, okay, you're right. You're not doing that bad.
So what was his plan of action for getting you sober?
It was going to be, it was basically going to be, I'll watch you and we'll just,
daddy daycare.
Right. Which was basically my life anyways, It was like me trying to constantly get one over on my parents and then them catching me and then me trying to get out of it again with them. But this time I did give up and I went to adolescent. And a little shout out, Brian O'Shea got on the phone with us December 26th, 2016. And he at the time was, and I believe he still does, was an interventionalist and had connections all over the country for different treatment centers. It could be for adolescents or eating disorders or adult substance use. And so he helped me find a place in Opelousas, Louisiana. You have never heard of that city for a reason.
You were correct.
Yeah, it is wild in Opelousas. Yeah, it sure is. I don't think many people probably make it out and say I'm from Opelousas. It was hardcore. And I just remember being in that adolescent rehab, looking around and just thinking, these people are wild. Like, I do not belong here. They're on some level that I'm not at right now. And so I'm very pristine, and I try to tell my counselor that I'm not meant to be here, and then she lays it on me. And I don't really remember what she said in our counseling session. I remember how I felt she said it, and how I felt she said what she said was that you are an alcoholic and you are doomed to die unless you accept that you're an alcoholic right now. And I don't think that she said that, but that is exactly what I heard, was that you're screwed. Mm-hmm. You're not getting out of this.
That sounds like that's what you needed to hear at the time, though.
And it was. And I had a panic attack. And this was 6 years ago, and so I don't want to say this is how it went. This is how I remember it. I remember having a full-on panic attack, like unable to breathe, catching my breath, tears just rolling out of my eyes. And she would give me a tissue, but she'd say, you just keep feeling this,
She made you sit in it.
Made me sit in it. And it felt like my life was over in that moment. Because I could not see what I have now. I could not tell the future. All I could think was, I will want to drink for the rest of my life. I will never be calm again. I will never feel loved again. I will never feel good about myself again. I will always be on edge. I will always hate myself. And that's all I could think. was this present moment. Because being an addict, not high or not drunk, is like, it's the present moment is the worst place to be.
Yeah, it's just like nails on a chalkboard, but everything.
Constantly. Nails on your skin, on, your mind, your taste buds, like every sensation is uncomfortable. And so I thought it was going to feel like that forever. And I've stopped doing nicotine. This is like jumping forward a little bit. I've stopped nicotine for a week now, and I cannot believe the insanity that rolls through my head constantly. Like I constantly want it. It's a 5 seconds by 5 seconds type of thing where I have to remind myself why I'm not using nicotine. And I mean, it's this insanity, and it's been really eye-opening this past week to remember what it was like when I was getting sober from drinking.
Yeah, brings you back to that same place of mind.
Exactly. That exact same place of mind. I can't believe that,
They say it's one of the hardest things to quit.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if the people who say that have withdrawn from heroin, but they say it's pretty rough.
Well, I don't know. I think the pills were rough too. I think all of it,
Yeah, none of it's good.
None of it's good. No, withdrawals don't have a nice little ring to it. It's
No. And I heard somebody say, the worst thing that you've ever experienced is the worst thing you've ever experienced.
Right.
So it's really hard to compare, one to the other for somebody who hadn't necessarily withdrawn from everything out there. But
right.
It's still, I know that there's a big psychological aspect to it, just like there is coming off any substance.
Yeah.
Even if hitting the vape didn't make you steal from your family and wreck your car and run from the police and all that other stuff, it's still a chemical that affects your mind, and your mind's looking for it when it's gone. Like, whoa, you've been giving me this anytime we were stressed or bored or anything for however long, and I'm stressed and bored. I'm waiting.
Where is it? Yeah. Yeah. And that unmanageability piece, because I think addiction does have our two pieces that we look at very intently as we come into recovery. At least I did. I was guided to look at the obsession, the mental and bodily obsession, and then the unmanageability. And the unmanageability was part 2 of the obsession, which was part 1. So I'm so obsessed with drinking that I can't stay sober for this night out with my family. My unmanageability piece is I embarrass my family in front of all their friends and throw up in the back of the building, So
Yeah.
it's like this constantly, these two pieces are so different though, because trying to deal with the wreckage of the relationships that I ruined versus trying to stop shaking my knee and stop freaking out that I want to drink so badly. Those were different experiences for me. It was very difficult to do them both at the same time. And so for me, going to inpatient was so helpful. I was just so grateful that I didn't have to deal with the unmanageability yet. And I could just look at my obsession for now. Nobody was sending me mailers telling me how I ruined their life,
Yeah.
None
I think
of that.
that's so important. One of the biggest benefits of going to treatment where you're completely separated, not only from the substance, but separated from all of the wreckage of your past, so that you have time to just focus on getting it out of my system, working on the obsession. I messed up a lot of stuff with a whole lot of people, but I didn't have to clean all that up in the first 30 days of my sobriety.
Right.
And if I had to, or even if I had just not been in treatment and that was an option, I probably would have worked myself to death trying to fix everything all at once, which wouldn't have done any good anyways, because nobody would have believed me.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you on that. And I think, people can get sober anywhere. We all have the ability to connect with the higher power if we have brains we can use. And I think it's just a choose your hard type of situation. I feel like some people do really well, just getting sober in their hometown. Hats off to them. I don't know how, I do have a really high level of respect for those individuals.
100%.
But I think, it's harder if you do it that way. Same as I think, yes, you can be in a relationship within the first year of your recovery. Is it harder? Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
100%. It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be rough for a while, but you can do it and you can stay sober. And so I think what was different about my first few months of recovery was that I did have people around me telling me, hey, this is the easier route. It can be difficult, or you can do this instead. And when they told me not to go back to my hometown, that was one of those moments where they said, you can go back to your hometown. And if you really want to stay sober, you will, if you put the work in.
Yeah.
Or you could just not. And here's another option. And so I moved to Birmingham. This is at the time I'm thinking like everyone cares about me, and that was not the case. I was like, they're gonna miss me. That didn't happen. I probably gave them all a lot less of a headache just by not being in class with them. So I missed out on my last half of senior year, and I just was able to focus in on recovery.
Did you have like the same phone number and stuff when you got out of rehab?
Yeah, I was thinking about this when you talked about it. My dad took me straight to Verizon when he picked me up from inpatient. We got in the car and he was like, I was like, hey, can we go to dinner? He's like, no, we're going to Verizon. You're changing your phone number. We're wiping your phone clean. So no.
Smart.
Yeah, smart. So my phone number was changed. I had a really hard time not being friends with people that I wanted to be friends with.
Did any of those people like reach out to you or try to get a hold of you when you first got sober?
A few of them.
Mm-hmm.
A few of them when I became active again on social media, and I had a really hard time because I was still in this delusion that I had real friendships with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that I knew how to care about them the way that they needed to be cared about, or that they cared about me. A lot of them I know now, we had transactional relationships.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of people about this now. It's not easy to just drop your friends. I know, Adam, you said it was so easy. You were like, stop talking to all of them.
Well, I was in a different place, though, too. Like, you were 17, and so I had already lost all of my high school friends.
Yeah, that's true.
They were already all gone. And when you're in high school, like, at that age, like, those are the friends that you grew up with, that you've been going to school with for however many years, and it's, like, the only people that you ever know. But I'd already recycled through, like, 3 sets of friends.
Right.
by that point. So, like, I didn't have real relationships with any of them anyway. So it's completely different, I think, depending on where you're at.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely felt like my entire bubble was burst.
Yeah.
And I was taken out of it, and I was missing everything. Like, if there's ever a case of FOMO, maybe just like totally leave your entire life and move somewhere else without telling people. That was huge FOMO.
So did anybody know that you were leaving for rehab?
Absolutely.
Oh, they all knew?
They all knew.
Okay.
And I'm over here telling my best friend, like, just tell people if they ask that I'm going to take care of my grandparents, because one of them has dementia. And she was like, okay, yeah, cool, sweet. And that, it was
Nobody bought
so
it?
silly. No, they all knew.
Yeah.
It was exactly like you with your boss. Like, oh, thank goodness you're going to get help.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, that took me a while to realize that they knew. But but yeah, it was the best decision I ever made to leave. And I found the best recovery community in Birmingham. I just was able to focus completely on learning to meditate and learning to pray and lean on other people and, cry out loud. To be honest about my feelings, to be honest about my plans, go out of my way to comfort others when I really was wanting to feel comforted. And I do talk about this a lot because it's so important. I didn't know what I was talking about at all.
Yeah.
Like, when I was with recovery friends, I didn't know, we're talking about sharing on a topic of mindfulness or of willingness. And I didn't know what I was talking about, but I was talking.
Yeah.
I was talking about how I didn't know what I was talking about and how I was angry about not knowing and how I was anxious and how actually this is really stupid that we're doing this in the first place, and how is a gratitude list going to help me stay sober and not want to go find some Xanax? How is that going to help me live a better life and feel calmer?
Yeah, I remember thinking that the gratitude list was the dumbest thing I had ever heard in my life.
Child,
you want me to write down what I'm thankful for? Get out of here.
I know.
But that shit works.
I know.
Now I sound like the people who told me about it. I don't always write it out on paper, but I try to do that in my morning prayers, go through the things in my life that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And it does. It changes your perception of them.
Yep. And I will tell some, I swear, it's good that a lot of these conversations are on the phone, because I will sometimes tell new people new to recovery, things like, yeah, I read a gratitude list, and I just, I'm like, oh my God, cringing at myself.
Yeah.
I've become that girl.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to be as real as possible. I know it sounds ridiculous. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I obviously don't understand why I have not wanted to pick up a drink. I could count on one hand how many times I have in the past 4 years. I've been sober 6. First 2 years were rough, but in the past 4 years, it's been pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah.
And I just do things, and things are on my calendar now. Sunday night, I'm going to go to a recovery meeting. Monday, I'm going to talk to some girls about recovery. Wednesday night, I'm going to talk to my, mentor about recovery. It's just
part of your normal life. Yeah.
It is. It's a lifestyle change.
It's crazy how routine it becomes. When you first get sober, all of that's so foreign. Like you were saying a minute ago, learning to be honest. I didn't know shit about telling the truth.
No.
Or learning mindfulness. Mindfulness, that's when you smoke a blunt. That's when I'm mindful.
Exactly.
That was the extent of my knowledge.
Exactly.
And now there's so many of these practices that other recovering people have shared with me that are just a part of my daily routine. I went for years without ever saying a prayer. And it's an unusual day if I don't throw up 5 prayers. They're not all super long. Some days it might just be a God help me, or help me not want to kill this customer, or whatever situation I'm dealing with at the time. Or it may just be the serenity prayer, just real quick to all right, where's my focus at?
Right.
But that, who am I? Where did that come from? I remember having conversations with my mom, I don't know if I believe in God. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Prove it. To somebody who prays religiously.
Yeah.
So foreign.
I know. And I feel the same way about so many different areas in my life. I think one of the biggest is the way that I express my negative emotions. It's so different. Mm-hmm. It used to be, especially towards the end where I was also still in high school, that I would be talking to a friend saying, screw her, she's so rude, can you believe that she did this to me, da-da-da-da-da, I mean, she's just so da-da-da-da-da, and that was the extent. Mm-hmm. there was never a point where I would say, and I recognize that I'm resentful right now and I'm not giving her the benefit of the doubt. And I know that she has issues that she works on as well. And she's human just like me. And I think I'm just in a bad place and I don't need to talk to her today.
Yeah. Well, you're no longer the center of your universe.
Exactly.
That's something I think about when dealing with people all the time. Like, I'll be talking to somebody about it and I'm like, well, they're just a sick person. They're going through something of their own. And that's so far from anything I ever would have thought. Like, I was never like a violent person, but I would get mad. I would curse you up and down. I would yell at you. I would want to push you off a cliff.
Right.
And those are not my first reactions anymore.
Right.
It's not to say that I don't ever have an outburst where I'll lose control of my anger. It's not frequent, but it still happens. But my first instinct is no longer that.
Yeah.
It's no longer to curse you out. Instead of flipping people off when I get road rage now, I give them the thumbs down. Boo.
Yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
And yes. And it changes my whole mindset just by changing the way, really just adding something. Because this doesn't mean that because I'm in recovery that I don't get angry and say things that are not nice, to feel heard and to vent and to get it out to what we call a closed mouth friend. Mm-hmm. Really just someone that, knows that this is not gossip time, that this is just I need to feel heard time. All it is that extra part after of like, I also recognize that I have some stuff to work on.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it at that. It's like I don't know, I'm very appreciative for that I have so many of those friends as well. I have so many people to go to about issues, and there has been this adrenaline inside of me when I do feel very angry or uncomfortable or jealous or insecure with any situation that's going on, be it work, personal, where I feel the adrenaline to no longer fix it and just feel better and forget about it. I do now feel inclined to go pray about it, to go journal about it, to go, share about it to a closed mouth friend. And I didn't feel that before. I think that's happened with time. There have been so many times in the first few months or years, maybe, if I could remember, that I have felt that inclination to fix it. And then I had to keep rerouting that to, okay, I need to actually go find a solution for it and go feel it. And then that's how I'm going to find peace once again around this situation. It's not like I'm going to go fix it really quickly, but the habits that we do from the tools that we use constantly, they just become ingrained.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is. Because when I first got sober, just removing the drugs and alcohol didn't change the way I reacted to people, places, or situations. Yeah. But I had to sit with my reaction in sobriety. I couldn't just go get drunk, or I couldn't get high and forget that I just made a complete ass of myself. I had to sit with the fact that I made an ass of myself. And then I learned, maybe I don't want to do that again. Maybe I should try something different next time. And so I think it's a slow process, but over some time, which you have, it turns out to where your first reaction is no longer to just punch somebody in the face or yell at them or whatever you used to do. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
It seemed like you might have punched some people in the face back in your day.
You would think that. I did. I was not physical.
No? Not even with your brother?
Okay. Yeah. 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 He would never listen to a podcast of me talking this long. This is probably his life. But yeah, I definitely did some things I regret there. But I was more of a, talker.
Yeah.
I was it's a Chihuahua. All talk, no
just yippy.
punch. Just yippy. Yeah, I was super yippy.
I can see that.
Yes.
I'm glad I know this Sarah and not that Sarah.
I know. I don't recognize the old Adam.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this. Did we talk about this on here that we
I don't think so.
It blows my mind that I've never seen you messed up.
Yeah, I agree. I have so many friends like that, especially since moving here to Mississippi, like, because I never drank or used here.
Right.
And so everybody I know here has never seen me drunk. They've never seen me high. Like, and then I have so many friends here who I hear their stories like you're sharing with me right now. And I'm like, man, that's so vastly different from the woman I see sitting in front of me. Like, I have a hard time
for
imagining.
this long.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time imagining. And it cracks me up, though, to imagine.
Oh, yeah. I like to picture some of our friends. I'm like,
absolutely.
I wonder what they were like. I bet that was wild. I bet I would not have been their friend.
No, I know. I don't think I would have been many of our friends' friends.
Yeah.
People who normally would not mix. That is
so true.
So true. Yes. But I think right now the biggest thing that I'm facing is how to remember where I came from as best I possibly can, because life is so different. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of like speed through everything that's happened so far. I got back into school after I received my high school diploma, and I did a community college in DC area, and then I went to move here. That's where I finished up my bachelor's in business administration, and all of that was such a trip because I was so convinced that I was stupid. And that I was just I did not have the IQ to make good grades, and that I couldn't retain information, and that, my ideas weren't original and no one was going to really listen to me. And I just had all these very, very negative beliefs about myself that prevented me from really wanting to do any school.
See, that's so interesting to hear you say that, because like when I think of the people I know down here, I think of you as one of the most intelligent, and like you have so many different things that you're doing and running and in charge of nowadays. Like the fact that you didn't have that confidence is surprising to me, because it's not at all what I think everybody around you sees anymore.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
I don't know. It's imposter syndrome, definitely. I feel so passionate about people like us going back to school now because of what it's done for me, the confidence that it's given me. I mean, I was the girl that was like lying to her parents about what grades I made and whether I studied or not. And every time I got an F, and I got so many of them, I think I had a 1.8 GPA in high school.
Solid.
The only reason I got my high school diploma is because they put me on a homebound homebound system, which is for people that are homebound, bedbound. And so I basically was, because I was crazy in the head. And that counted somehow. But, I did not think that I was going to do well in high school and in college. And people told me, treat it like your recovery meetings. Come early, stay late, like your life depends on it. Make friends, take notes, ask questions, go to office hours. And so I just started doing all of those things, telling people when I was not doing well and when I needed help and when I was confused about different things we were studying. And I ended up making 4.0 in undergrad, and then making, getting a scholarship to my final undergrad college, Millsaps, because of my grades in community college, and then getting my MBA and getting good grades. And I'm very excited about that, but I know that it's not because I'm Einstein. Like it's because I showed up and I worked hard. And I can be proud of that. I really thought that grades equals smart or not smart, depending on what you get. And it's been very nice to know that that's not the case, because I thought I had no shot if that was the case.
Yeah. Well, it's just like anything else that we do. It's, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And it sounds like you really put your head down and put all the work behind it that was required to get good grades, and voila, you got good grades,
Yeah. That's something I think that is so cool about us addicts, because everything in, what's the saying? Everything in too much is not good. Everything in,
what is it? One is too many, 1,000's never enough. Is that what you're getting at?
No, not quite. I don't know.
There's some saying, guys.
There's some saying, everybody, where like if you have too much of something, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. That's
there
what
we go.
But that's my quote, so you can put my name on that one. And I don't know. We have the ability to withstand a lot of pain for something that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel like I do have the ability to withstand a lot of pain for what I want. And I'm really starting to understand that better now, because I'm in a place in my life where I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't, I don't have to race home at 5 for any reason. And so I am able to work several jobs at once and possibly go back to school. I was able in the last semester to do a full-time student course load, and then run the businesses I'm involved in now. And I just think we all have that in us.
Yeah.
We all have that in us. And there's a balance to it. Like, I don't want to be too afraid. I think you and everyone in my friend group knows that there's a little bit of a, obsession there with doing a lot.
Yeah, you guys should see her Google Calendar. It's absurd. Every hour of every day of probably all the way through 2024 is already blocked out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you're so right. That's something that it took me a while in recovery to learn, is that like pain is not a bad thing, and just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it's a bad thing. When I was drinking and using, like, I was always just seeking comfort. And whether it's sitting in my feelings that's uncomfortable, I grow from it. Or whether it's going to the gym and doing a workout that I don't want to do, I feel better for it afterwards. Or if it's having an uncomfortable conversation with somebody that I don't want to have a conversation with, it clears the air. There's so many examples in my life and in my recovery of just doing the uncomfortable thing and getting to the other side of it and seeing the positive results.
Right.
Because I could never look that far beforehand. Like, all I could see was like, that's uncomfortable. That's going to cause me pain. I don't want to do it. And now I can look at it as like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. It's going to be dumb. I'm going to hate it. It's stupid. I don't want to. I don't feel like it. But then, all right, but we're going to go anyways.
And now you're on year 3 of the 75 hard. And I didn't even know it went that long.
It's only year 2, but we just restarted.
No, literally year 2. You've been doing every phases that the general public didn't know existed.
Well, I found out that I've grown a lot from it, when I first started doing that last year, the guy who started it, he has a podcast, and he was talking about how would your life be different a year from now if you always followed through on the things that you told yourself you were going to do. And it hit me deep, because I was like, damn. I was at a point where I followed through on stuff I told other people I was going to do. If there was accountability, if I told you that I'll be here at this time to help you do this thing, I'd show up and do it. But I could tell myself, like, we're going to meal prep this week, or we're going to, whatever the thing is, and time again, I would put it off till tomorrow and let myself down. And through doing hard things, I've got to the point where I don't do that anymore. You know, when I started that last year, I didn't have any thought of doing a podcast. I didn't have any thought of having a recovery clothing brand and social media content that's out on all types of different platforms. And little by little, I taught myself that I can do this hard thing. I can do something else that's hard. And one day I was just sitting there and I was like on the computer, and all of a sudden I had an LLC.
Right.
And like, okay, well, that wasn't
really easy to create, by the way.
Turns out, not difficult at all. But there was fear there.
The fear, yes.
That fear of failure always gets in my way.
Yeah.
Not to take over the whole conversation, but it's really, really beneficial to do hard things, to do uncomfortable things. I don't know who said it, but pain is the touchstone of growth.
Yes.
And that's how we grow, you know?
Yeah, pain is information for me today.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer the worst case scenario. It is, you know, I mean, I love what you're saying about the self-talk and what we say to ourselves, the promises we make to ourselves, because like the whole amends process with getting in recovery, where I'm going to people, several people in my life and telling them that I recognize where I harmed you and I want to make it right. There is a very important person I have also harmed, and that's myself and my body and my mental health and my everything, my ego, I've boosted it up and deflated it all in the same day. And part of living an amends to myself is taking things like that seriously. I love that you've said that there's a difference between things that I tell you I'm going to do and then things that I tell myself I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. Because I do that too. I put it on a higher pedestal that I told you I was going to be here.
Yeah, because if you don't show up, I'm going to be like, where you at, Sarah?
Yep.
But if I tell myself I'm going to do something, nobody's going to call and ask where I am, or why didn't you fold the laundry that's been sitting in your laundry basket for 3 days that you told yourself you were going to fold 3 days ago? Like,
right.
You'll just sit there till tomorrow when I notice it again.
No one out loud does, but my internal guilt goes around in circles, and it comes up inside of me. It's just quiet. Mm-hmm. I'm so lazy for not. I give myself the opportunity to make assumptions about me.
Absolutely. It shapes your self-talk. It shapes your self-confidence. You know, when you're somebody who follows through on the things that you tell yourself you're going to do, all of a sudden you become a more confident person. And a more confident person is a more motivated person. So you begin to take on other tasks, and it snowballs, at least in my experience. Like, the change that I see in myself from like a year and a half ago or whatever, feeling like I don't ever follow through on anything I tell myself I'm going to do, to today where like I follow through on damn near everything I say I'm going to do. And when I don't, I'm like, I let that little bitch voice in my head win. That's how I picture it. Like, there's this little voice up there that's like, don't do it, Adam. You don't have to fold the laundry. Wouldn't it be nice to just sit on the couch and eat snacks and watch TikTok? Wouldn't that feel good? Don't you like being comfortable?
Yes.
And sometimes I let that little son of a bitch win.
Right.
But most of the time, I smack him away. I put him in his place, and then I go on about what I need to do.
Yeah. Recognizing it as a voice and as a separate thing. And there's a book about this, about the ego, that I was thankfully told to read in early recovery. And it was just separating these voices that we hear, and separating the feelings that we have towards ourselves with who we really are and what we really are. Because I am not my thoughts. I am, I am all these other things, but I have to know what that is so that I can really own it. And I was talking to a friend recently about like how I feel right now. I never thought I'd feel so comfortable in my skin.
Yeah. That's such a good feeling.
Yeah, and it's not based on anything. It's not based on that I like my highlights in my hair right now, or my skin is healthier, or my figure, or it's not based on any of those things. It is just I genuinely feel good about me.
Mm-hmm. And getting to that place, like, because it's on the inside. I always thought, we've talked about this some before, but like I always thought that it was the outside that needed changing, that I needed to lose the weight, I needed to get stronger, I needed more facial hair, less facial hair, different color hair, my eyebrows were too bushy, whatever bullshit I told myself, and I could change all of it, and none of it made a difference. I've been really out of shape and really in shape at several points in my sobriety, and at both of those extremes, I felt really uncomfortable being me.
Right.
And so doing that inner work to get to the point where it's like, you know what, I'm okay. Even if I put on a little weight, I'm okay. If I lose a little weight, I'm okay. If you don't like the way I look, I'm okay. Just being okay with Adam or being okay with Sarah, and not basing that on like, I wonder what they're thinking of me. Are they talking about me? Or all those other outside factors that I used to put my self-worth in now are just inside factors. Like if I'm doing what I need to be doing, then I'm okay with me. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily matter how that looks on the outside to everybody else. Yeah. Because I know I'm where I need to be for me.
That's exactly right. And it's really a gift to sit with other women today too that don't understand that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a passion that I feel now, and I know you relate to this. Sitting with people that have felt like how I have felt, and not feeling like I need to change them or immediately give them all the information that I have, but just holding on with them, and feeling that with them. It's incredible. I mean, it feels like one of those, like sometimes it feels out of body, where I can imagine that I am sitting with my inner child or my inner teenager, and I'm just letting her cry and just validating her. And I'm able to think, because doing peer support, it's been amazing to see it from a different lens, and I learn so much more about myself when I'm helping others too. And I also care a lot less about myself.
Well, there's something so powerful about being able to use your negative experience to be a guiding light for somebody else. Yeah. And even if it's not giving them any sort of advice or any direction that changes their situation, just the simple, hey, I've been there too. I know that feeling. It sucks, but I'm here for you. You don't have to walk through it alone. Like that's massive. The people who held my hand as I first got into recovery and did not know how to be an adult human. Yeah. I was still a child on the inside, and taught me like, okay, this is what we need to do. We're going to see how much you owe to all these different people, and then we're going to start paying your bills. I'm like, okay, we pay bills now. All right, cool. Yeah. But just having somebody there who's like, hey, dude, I've been there. I owed the IRS money too, and I don't owe money anymore, and I'll help you figure it out. Like, that's right. Wild. It's so, so powerful and so cool to be on the other side of it, which I still have people that do that for me. Not to say that I'm fixed all the, like I still have so much growth opportunity, so much to learn about the world and about being an adult still, and all these things, but being able to be that person for somebody else in the same way that somebody was that person for me is such a cool experience. Yeah.
And then knowing that when things get worse, not worse, but when worse things happen, because they will, that I'm going to have people to sit with me
100%.
Again. I'm experiencing that now with my dad. It's a very slow process losing him to dementia, and I've had the most patient women sit with me that have been through this and stayed sober. And I don't know. I mean, worse is coming. You know,
Yeah.
I don't mean to be totally negative. Good things are coming too. Incredible
Absolutely.
experiences are coming. But I think there is a world of hurt that I have to be ready for, and not in a way that I'm defensive about it. You know, not that I'm, you know, coming in and it's just all for nothing or anything. Just knowing that, you know, I'm going to have these good moments and I'm going to have these bad moments, and I'm going to have to really appreciate the good ones and really hang on to my resources when I'm facing the bad ones.
Well, that's something I think that it's a misconception for a lot of people. Like, as they're just getting sober, I thought that, like, you remove the drugs and alcohol and life was just going to be good. Like, that all these problems would go away. But life doesn't hold punches. Like, just
Right.
because we're in recovery, life still happens. We still lose family members. We have friends that, you know, die in the program. And then we have friendships that fall off over time, or we get fired at work, or we still get in car wrecks, or
Yeah.
there's all these different, the list could go on of things that can happen to us. But being able to have people to walk you through that, like, that's something that I did not have when I was drinking and using. You know, I lost my granddad when I was getting high, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I didn't have anyone to hold my hand and show me how to grieve properly. You know, I don't think I cried a tear until I was like a year and a half sober. I remember being in the car, like, I'd just gotten a new car in Nashville, and I was driving back to Jackson, Tennessee. And I don't have a clue what song came on, but some song came on and made me think of him, and I bawled for like 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
Because I just, you know, I'd been holding on to that, and I'd never processed it. But being able to know that no matter what's coming up, there's people who have been through it, or they've been through worse, and they're willing to walk through it with me. Like, that's what's so powerful about recovery community, and not just recovering alone or recovering in silence.
Yeah, and it is incredible how quickly I could become friends with people too. It's not a very long process to find that community.
Not at all.
It can happen within hours, or, you know, or shorter. Just knowing that there is this huge dilemma that we are facing together, and it also doesn't even matter how far along a person is.
Not at all.
You know, I've got best friends that have way more time than me, and then best friends that have way less, you know?
Yeah, both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And sometimes the ones with way less have more quality sobriety than some of the ones I know with way more time.
Because they're on fire.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I really, really, really hate my life right now. Like, I really, really, really want to feel better. And then there's, like, you know, some days I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tired today.
But we're in a common fight. Like, we all have this common goal of, like, staying sober no matter what comes our way. And then we have, though they're different, all of this shared experience of how drugs and alcohol kicked our ass before we got sober. And so it's like this instant connection that we can form with people. You know, I mean, I can meet somebody who's newly sober, and we can talk for like 30 minutes, and all of a sudden I'm like sharing my darkest secrets with them about stuff that, you know, that I used to do or did, or and then the next time I see them, it's like, it feels like we've known each other for forever.
Yep.
And that's something I never experienced before getting sober.
No.
Or even since getting sober. You know, that happens with people in recovery, and I find that I can make fast friends with people who aren't in recovery or aren't in sobriety too, but there's just something different about the way that we can click with somebody who's got that shared experience.
Yeah, exactly. And whereas before, you know, I'd spend months with people and not really know them, not really care. And I don't know if they cared about knowing me, you know. That is something that we talk about, is the quality of relationships now is just so much better.
It's no longer transactional.
No, it's not. It's I really care about you, and I'm showing up for you. But guess what? Guess what I'm doing tonight, Adam?
What are you doing tonight?
I'm going to be getting online, looking at Whiskey and Milk t-shirts, because if you can't tell, or if everybody can't tell, this is the first podcast I'm doing without a t-shirt. And I obviously need more. Do you want to tell us about the new t-shirts that you have out?
Yeah, so we showed off one of the new designs a couple weeks ago. We got a Grateful I'm Not Dead, little spin-off of the Grateful Dead.
That's what I'm ordering.
Yep, that one's solid. I was a big Deadhead. I mean, still love the music, but not the psychedelics so much anymore.
Yeah.
But I had some experiences. I got a couple new hats out, a powerless hat, one that just says sober. Got this one's the brand tee. It's got the Whiskey Milk logo on the front with a bunch of hashtags on the back. And then we've got some that are going to be pretty familiar stories for anybody who has worked the 12 steps to get sober. Just like the name Whiskey and Milk, if it rings a bell, if you know, you know. I got one with the Jaywalker, one from Bill's story at the tombstone of the Hampshire Grenadier. And if you know, you know. But you can check them all out at whiskeymilk.com. You can follow us on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's all under Whiskey and Milk or Recovery Uncovered. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening.
Attention, now arriving at your destination. The last house on the block.